Welcome to a deep dive that takes us through the evolution of the tech industry.
Ooh, through the eyes of someone who's seen it all.
Right.
Kara Swisher.
Yeah, Kara Swisher. She's not just a journalist.
No, not at all.
She's been right there as tech went from niche to, global obsession.
You could say that again.
Yeah, and her memoir, Burn Book, a tech love story.
That's the one.
It's a goldmine
It really is.
of firsthand observations.
It is really is like you're
What
getting.
I've found so fascinating about it
Yeah.
is that this isn't just a tech history book.
No,
It's deeply personal.
very much so.
We see the rise of these giants like Google and Facebook, but through the lens of her own interactions.
Yeah.
It's almost like she's giving us a backstage pass
Yeah, it's like you're right
to
there.
how it all went down.
You are there. You're
Yeah.
a fly on the wall in
Wrong.
all these important rooms.
That's what makes it so valuable.
Right.
You're not just getting dates and names. You're getting a sense of the personalities, the culture, the vibe of Silicon Valley as it was transforming the world.
Yeah, they were just making it up as they went along in a way, and she was there.
Why?
She's seen all of that.
Okay, let's start at the beginning.
Let's do it.
Swisher was into tech even before it was cool, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
picture this, 1993,
1993.
and she's testing out virtual reality.
Wow.
Keep in mind, this is way before the VR headsets we know today.
Yeah.
We're talking clunky early prototypes.
Oh, wow.
And get this, she was writing about online sex in virtual reality.
What? In 1993.
1993.
That's pretty ahead of the curve.
Way ahead.
Like, she had a sixth sense for what would become mainstream.
Totally. Yeah.
That early interest in mobile phones is another great example.
For sure.
Right back when cell phones were these giant bag phones.
The bag phone, oh my God.
She was lugging one around, fascinated by the idea of mobile communication.
She was, yeah. I mean, who knew how obsessed we would become?
Talk about spotting a trend before it explodes. But it wasn't all fun and games.
No.
She was there for the dot-com bubble, witnessing both the euphoria and the eventual crash. That must have been a wild ride to cover.
I mean, talk about a roller coaster, right? I mean, it was a period of immense growth.
Yeah.
Driven by companies like AOL.
Oh, yeah.
And their promise of connecting everyone.
It's a lot to everyone.
Do you remember those CDs?
Yes.
You get like 100 free hours?
I still have some, I think.
Steve Case, AOL CEO, he had this vision that everyone would be online.
Everyone.
And for a while, it felt like that dream was coming true.
It did, yeah.
It really did.
It's easy to forget how revolutionary the internet seemed back then.
It really was mind-blowing at the time.
But like all bubbles,
all the bubbles burst.
it eventually burst, leaving a lot of wreckage behind.
What?
What did Swisher learn from that experience?
One of the key takeaways, I think,
Right.
is the danger of unanticipated consequences.
Ah, interesting.
The technology was moving so fast, and there was so much hype that very few people stopped to think about the potential downsides.
Yeah, you just get caught up in it.
You do.
The excitement. It's a theme that pops up again and again throughout the book, right?
It does, and it becomes even more prominent as we move into the era of social media.
Little.
But before we get there,
Yeah.
I think it's important to note a significant shift that Swisher herself embodies.
Okay.
Her move to Silicon Valley
Ah,
and her work at the Wall Street Journal.
that seems symbolic of how power was shifting from the East Coast establishment to the West Coast tech hub.
Absolutely. It was literally like the whole center of gravity.
Just move.
Just moved, yeah. She was literally on the front lines as Silicon Valley became the epicenter of the tech world. And it's around this time that she encounters two guys who are about to change everything.
Who are these guys?
Larry Page and Sergey Brin, the founders of Google.
Google those guys.
Those guys.
Talk about being in the right place at the right time. What was her initial impression of them? Did she have any inkling of what Google would become?
Well, she describes them as being incredibly bright,
Mhm.
almost intimidatingly. So they had this infectious enthusiasm for their project, and even then, it was clear they were onto something big.
And she almost had a hand in shaping Google's famous "don't be evil" philosophy,
Yes,
right?
she did. She was actually asked to help write it,
Wow.
but declined because her then-wife worked at Google.
Uh-huh.
Even back then, she understood the importance of journalistic integrity and avoiding conflicts of interest.
That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
But it also suggests she had a deep understanding of Google's culture from the very beginning.
She was in the mix.
Now we can't talk about Google without talking about its biggest rival at the time, Yahoo.
Yahoo!
What's Swisher's take on that battle for search dominance?
Oh, she captures the intensity of that rivalry, but she also highlights Yahoo's struggles to adapt to the changing landscape. There's this great anecdote where she's talking to an investment banker who's considering putting money into a pre-revenue company. Pre-revenue.
What does that even mean?
Basically, a company that hasn't started making any money yet.
Okay,
It's all potential and projections at that point.
got it.
Blue sky.
So what happened with the banker?
Well, Swisher, in her typical no-nonsense style, tells him that he might as well mug an old lady instead.
Oh my God.
It's her way of pointing out the absurdity of the dot-com bubble, where valuations were often completely detached from reality.
Yeah.
You can't just throw money at hype and expect results. Google, on the other hand, had a killer product in their search engine, and they were laser-focused on improving the user experience.
Yeah, make it work. Make it easy to use.
Exactly. And that's a key contrast she draws between the two companies. Google was obsessed with making search better, faster, more intuitive, while Yahoo seemed to be struggling to find its footing in the rapidly evolving internet landscape. And as the internet landscape kept evolving, we see the emergence of what would become a whole new beast.
Social media.
Social media.
Oh boy. This is where things get really interesting.
Things get crazy.
We have these new players like Facebook and Twitter
Yeah,
coming onto the scene, and with them a whole new set of challenges
absolutely.
and unanticipated consequences, right?
Oh, yeah, big time. And
Yeah.
at the center of it all is Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah. Swisher's insights into him are particularly fascinating.
She's known him for years.
She has.
What's her take on his personality?
Well, she noticed early on that he could be socially awkward. There's a story about him having a bit of a meltdown at a conference,
Yeah.
getting visibly flustered and uncomfortable.
I remember seeing that interview.
You've seen it.
It was almost painful to watch.
It was?
Do you think that awkwardness played a role in how Facebook developed, especially in terms of its impact on privacy and the spread of misinformation?
That's a really interesting question. Swisher suggests that Zuckerberg, at least early on, struggled to grasp the real-world implications of the platform he created.
Okay.
She describes a kind of victim mentality, a tendency to feel unfairly attacked, even as Facebook was growing into this global behemoth.
So maybe there was a disconnect between his engineering mindset focused on solving technical problems
Yeah.
and the very human, messy consequences of
Ugh.
connecting billions of people online.
Yeah, he was a little slow in the uptake there.
Yeah.
And that brings us to one of the most shocking moments in the book.
Got it.
Zuckerberg's defense of Holocaust deniers during an interview with Swisher.
Wait, he actually defended Holocaust deniers?
He did.
I don't remember hearing about that.
It was a truly jaw-dropping moment. He argued that they weren't intentionally spreading false information
Wow.
and that Facebook shouldn't censor them.
Wow, that's incredibly disturbing. How did Swisher react to that?
Well, she was stunned, as was her producer. They literally hightailed it out of Facebook HQ. To get that interview published as quickly as possible, it was a turning point for her, a realization that the tech industry's naive optimism was colliding with some very dark realities.
It's almost like the more powerful these platforms became,
Yeah.
the less accountable their leaders felt.
Less accountable they felt.
Which brings us to another tech titan who seems to embody that lack of accountability,
Oh, yeah.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk's Swisher has a long and complicated history with him.
I bet.
It starts with admiration. She is clearly impressed by his vision for Tesla,
Oh, yeah?
his commitment to sustainable energy, his concerns about the potential dangers of AI.
I feel like he was one of the first people who was really sounding the alarm on AI.
He was early on that.
But things seem to have gone downhill from there.
To say the least, there's this incident where Musk takes offense to a tweet about Tesla. A positive tweet, mind you.
A positive tweet.
A positive tweet. It highlights this incredible sensitivity to criticism,
Wow.
even when it's veiled as praise.
Like he can't handle anything less than total adoration.
It seems that way, and then there's a whole Twitter saga.
Oh, the Twitter saga.
It feels like a case study in what happens when unbridled ego meets a platform designed for instant gratification.
Yeah, it really does. His acquisition of Twitter and his subsequent behavior there have been
Chaotic, to put it mildly.
impulsive tweets,
Oh, yeah.
attacks on
It's
critics,
the whole 9
the
yards.
spread of conspiracy theories. It's all there.
It's all there.
And it's such a contrast to the thoughtful,
Yeah.
almost philosophical side of him that comes out in interviews.
Hey,
Almost like there are two Elon Musks,
I think there are.
the visionary entrepreneur and the impulsive Twitter troll.
Yeah, it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde a little
Yes.
bit. And Swisher doesn't shy away from calling out that duality.
No, she doesn't.
She points out that while he can be incredibly insightful in one-on-one conversations,
Yeah.
his behavior on Twitter often undermines his own goals and messages.
Yeah, he's shooting himself in the foot a lot of time.
It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power, especially in the digital age.
But it's not just the Elon Musks and Mark Zuckerbergs who come under Swisher's scrutiny.
That's right.
She also dives into the systemic issues within the tech industry, like the lack of diversity.
Absolutely.
And the persistent sexism.
She was one of the first to really shine a light on these problems. She covers the Ellen Pao lawsuit against Kleiner Perkins,
I remember that.
which was a landmark case that exposed the deep-seated sexism and discrimination women face in Silicon Valley.
It was a big deal, and I remember that anecdote about Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Facebook, saying she just wanted to be the 50th most powerful woman in tech.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder of how few women actually hold positions of influence in the industry.
Yeah, it was shocking when she said it, and it's still shocking today.
It's still true, though.
It's still true. Swisher argues that this lack of diversity isn't just a social justice issue,
Right.
it's a business issue.
Okay.
It leads to products and services that are designed for a very narrow slice of humanity, often neglecting the needs and perspectives of women, people of color, and other marginalized groups.
It's like they're building a future
Yeah.
for a world that only looks like them.
And as technology becomes increasingly intertwined with every aspect of our lives, the consequences of that narrow perspective become even more profound.
So what's Swisher's overall outlook on the future of tech? Is she optimistic, pessimistic, or somewhere in between?
I'd say she's cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic.
She acknowledges the incredible potential of technology to solve problems and improve lives.
Right.
But she's also keenly aware of the risks, the unintended consequences that often arise when we move too fast and break too many things.
Yeah, it feels like there's this constant tension between progress and responsibility,
Totally.
innovation and ethics.
It's a tightrope walk.
Are there any examples of tech leaders who she feels are getting this right?
She highlights a few people who she thinks have evolved in their thinking,
Okay.
like Evan Spiegel of Snapchat
Okay.
and Brian Chesky of Airbnb.
Interesting.
They've certainly faced their share of challenges, but they've also shown a willingness to learn from their mistakes and to prioritize values like privacy and community.
That's encouraging to hear, that there are leaders out there who are trying to create a more ethical and sustainable tech ecosystem.
And we can't forget the role of whistleblowers like Frances Haugen,
Right.
who took a huge risk to expose the inner workings of Facebook and its impact on society. People like her are essential for holding these powerful companies accountable.
It sounds like Swisher's book is a call to action, a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping the future of technology.
Absolutely. She urges us to be informed, to engage in critical thinking, to challenge the status quo, and to demand better from the tech industry.
So what can we do as individuals? It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the sheer scale of these issues.
Well, one simple step is to be more mindful of our own tech consumption.
Right.
Ask yourself, how are these tools affecting my life?
Right.
Am I using them in ways that align with my values?
Good question.
Am I supporting companies that are working to make a positive impact? And beyond our individual choices, we can also use our voices to advocate for change. We can contact our elected officials, support organizations that are fighting for a more ethical and equitable tech landscape, and share our concerns with friends and family.
It's about recognizing that we're not just passive consumers.
Right.
We have agency.
We do. The future of technology isn't predetermined. It's shaped by the choices we make today.
This deep dive into Kara Swisher's Burn book has been incredibly insightful.
It's a great book.
It's a reminder that technology is ultimately a reflection of ourselves, our values, and our aspirations.
Well said. And as we move forward into this rapidly evolving digital age, it's essential that we remember the lessons of the past and use them to build a future that is both innovative and humane.
This has been Note Lab Mode. Today's sponsor is CloudFit.ai.a, B2B fashion commerce platform that uses AI to boost user engagement and increase client revenue. If you found this episode useful, share it with someone who'd love smarter fashion tech, and don't forget to subscribe.